Wow, it has been a really, really amazing episode of the Kingdoms podcast and Diary of a CFO today with the highly, highly important BVIP Babak Hafezi. Thank you very much, Babak, for being on the show today. It's the testimonial time. What did you enjoy about being on this podcast? Right from the outreach to the documentation to the guest preparation and of course the recording. What have you enjoyed about being on the King Davis podcast and Diary of a CFO?
Yeah, I think the first thing is how easy it all was. Number one, it just from the beginning to the end, it was easy. When we even had a small miscommunication, it was easily fixed. And then, so that's obviously the pivoting factor, the quick pivoting factor. It makes it easy. But the secondary is just that it wasn't a stressful conversation; it was a very natural conversation. So that also obviously bodes really, really well because you bring the best out of every single person out, and it's not
Wow,
a
thank you.
it's not, let's call it an argumentative conversation, but it's really a developmental conversation where you try to build and educate people, which is wonderful.
Wow, thank you very much. I always say this on the podcast that I have only two intentions, only two goals, that is to educate and to motivate. And of course, if I'm able to achieve those, I think my job is done. So thank you very much for helping me with my job. I think the very next question is why should people listen to your episode and why should people listen to these podcasts?
So I think if you're interested in global policy, if you're interested in your stance and how the world is working around you and how that impacts you, I think this is a very, very important podcast, right? Ultimately, you don't live in your own economy by yourself. You're living in a competitive environment. And whatever happens somewhere else in the world, it impacts you in one way or the other, maybe with massive delays, but it impacts you. So being educated about global policy, being educated about international economics is critically important to see where you stand in the world and what affects you and how you can actually monetize that. So that's what I would argue is how critical to this. Number two, it's any podcasts and podcasts are a great way of becoming more in tune with the industries and segments that you're in and learning from other people's experiences, right? Is to build a larger library of experience knowledge. And you don't have to experience everything yourself, but you can actually read about it and learn from other people's experiences. So that's why podcasts become so critically important, is it allows you to see the world from multiple different perspectives and circumstantial structures.
Thank you very much. So, the very last question I have for you today is in just a few words, what would you say resonates with you, and what would you say you appreciate the most about this podcast, the Kingdoms podcast, and Diary of a CFO?
I think ultimately what is greatly appreciative is the fact that you're bringing people together and having them engage in honest, insightful conversations and asking great questions that allow people to really explore, new natures of their
Mm,
industry. And this knowledge share allows other people to maybe, it impacts other people to see the world a different perspective, especially when we have a global audience. Because what happens in Saudi Arabia, what happens in Spain, or what happens in Lithuania or Austria, it may be different than what we see in Washington and in London. So that's critically important for us to kind of share that knowledge with other places and for others to look at our perspectives, see our perspectives, and see where those similarities lie to ultimately create that oneness of humanity.
wow, thank you very much once again. Like I love to say, the person shares a time with you, they share their life with you because the SI unique for measuring life is time. And I cannot wait for British Airways to sponsor the very next episode, having us on business class with important conversations that are shaping the global economy and, of course, the global ecosystem. Thank you very much once again. Love and respect to you, Babak, and of course, wish you the very best in all of your endeavors to have a great time.